Taped from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, a show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, Darren Patterson.
I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
John, you want to talk about the movie we're going to see today?
We're doing a movie this week. We're doing.
Yes.
Why don't you talk about the movie? This was something that you were really pushing for, and we had to push it off last week when we had the SNL at Home episode.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, but now we reviewed it, and now we get to do this movie that's one of my favorites, Hot Rod. The movie by the people at Lonely Island, the Lonely Island gang, Akiva Schaffer, Jorma Taccone, and Andy Samberg. This movie came out August 3rd, 2007, directed by Akiva Schaffer, his first film he's ever done, and it was written by Pam Brady, who wrote on South Park. She wrote the Team America World Police movie. She wrote Hamlet 2, wrote on Just Shoot Me, Lady Dynamite, so she's had some comedy chops.
That's a pretty impressive career she's had. And I was very surprised when the movie started up and I saw her name listed as the writer. I was like, oh, wow, I was assuming that the Lonely Island guys wrote this, but apparently she wrote the original script and she wrote it for Will Ferrell.
Right.
Originally. And then when the Lonely Island guys took it over, they rewrote it. But Pam Brady still got the sole credit on it. I don't know how much of her script remains.
I guess maybe the idea of it remains, but like there is a ton of Lonely Island sensibilities throughout this entire movie. I think because like they were going to take the original script and have them do it, but then they thought, well, this just seems like Andy Samberg trying to do a Will Ferrell impression. So they really want to take all the Ferrell out and put in all the their own type of stamp on it, which I get. It makes sense.
I mean, well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when you write something with one star in mind and then you shift it to another actor, of course you're going to rewrite the script at least a little bit to tailor it for your new lead actor.
Absolutely. So when this movie came out in August of 2007, had a budget of $25 million, only made $14 million. This movie was a big old bomb, a stinkeroo, got 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, it did not. I remember just when this movie came out, I don't think I saw it in the theaters. For some reason, I don't know why I didn't. But I just saw it I saw it on DVD afterwards, and I was like, oh, this movie's actually pretty funny. It's actually funnier than I thought it'd be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was my first time seeing it, so I was coming to it pretty fresh. I don't think I'd seen more than like a trailer for it. So I was coming to it pretty fresh, and it's hard to believe this movie's like 13 years old already.
Good Lord. Yeah, it's in its teens. My God.
I know.
Yikes.
I know. It's going to be like stealing beer and from the drugstore and drinking it in the parking lot.
Yeah, hanging out in front of the 7-Eleven, cursing out its dad.
I don't know why I'm assuming that this movie is a juvenile delinquent, but it seems appropriate somehow.
It does. It does. It fits. It tracks. So yeah, I can't wait to hear your take on it. This is your first time seeing it. This should be pretty interesting.
Should we just get into it as we go? Do you want my thoughts up top? How do you want to do this, Darren?
Well, let's just go. Yeah, let's just get into it and just kind of lay out the basic premise and stuff like we always do.
Okay.
So basically, the movie starts with Andy Samberg, who plays Rod Kimball, who is like
the titular Hot Rod.
Yes, exactly. And he's this guy who's, a bit of a dope, bit of a loser, but he wants to be a stuntman, so he goes around town doing stunts on his moped.
It's very much character type at that time where he's playing a man.
Yes,
type.
Very much so. And he has a quote-unquote crew with him that helps him do all these stunts. He has his stepbrother, Kevin, played by Jorma Taccone, who's one of the Lonely Island guys. He has Rico, who builds the ramps, played by Danny McBride. And he has Dave, played by Bill Hader, who's the mechanic.
Right. And Jorma, I don't know if you said that. Yeah, he's the team manager videographer.
Yeah. He's always there with like a camcorder to videotape all the stunts. And the movie opens with them doing a stunt where he jumps over on his moped over like a ice cream truck, which of course goes horribly. he like smacks his back on the ramp. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, I read on the IMDb trivia page that during the filming of that opening scene, where Rod's trying to jump over the ice cream truck, the stuntman playing Rod actually broke his leg. So we're just a few minutes into the movie. We are seeing a stuntman actually for real get injured.
Oh my God! It's like Faces of Death. Holy hell!
I mean, maybe they didn't use that take, but it doesn't say for sure if that take is in the movie. And I wasn't watching this on DVD or anything, so I don't know if this has a commentary or anything. We should say the movie's on Netflix if you want to check it out. It is currently streaming on Netflix. Actually,
it's on Netflix and Amazon Prime, so you got two ways to watch it.
So there you go. You got options, people. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and also another thing I noticed throughout this whole movie, there's very like 80s vibe to it. Like they play a lot of songs from Europe, the like that Swedish arena rock band from the 80s. There's a lot of Europe in this place. There's one scene where they're playing a song from Stacy Q, and there's Cutting Crew. A lot of 80s songs throughout this whole movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is an 80s connection. The film score was former Yes guitarist Trevor Rabin. Rabin? I don't know how you say it. It's Rabin.
Quote the Raven.
Yes.
Haha, see what I did there? Hey.
I did. You got a literary on us.
Haha. Oh boy. All right. So that's the basic premise. Rod is a guy who's trying to be a stuntman. He's a big old failure. He still lives at home with his parents. His mom, played by Sissy Spacek, and his stepdad, played by Ian McShane. And they have this.
Ian McShane, who you probably know from Deadwood, is what he's best known for, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's this thing that goes on throughout the movie where, because Ian McShane, Frank, is Rod's stepdad, Rod feels like he needs to fight him and beat him and win in order to earn his respect and love.
Right, so, because he's just Frank's stepson, he feels that he has to earn the love that his stepbrother Kevin automatically gets.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and another thing too, whenever Rod does a stunt or he fights his dad, he has like a fake mustache he puts on.
Right, like because real men have mustaches, but Rod can't grow a real one because he has a hormone disorder.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong, but yeah. So of course, there's a scene of Rod and Frank fighting that's actually really physical. Like there's a lot of stuntman work throughout this whole movie. There's a lot of like physicalities throughout this thing.
Yeah,
and it ends with Frank just pretty much kicking his ass and beating him soundly. It's rough.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So that's basically it. And also, they introduce Denise, who lives next door, played by Ilsa Fisher.
Isla Fisher.
Damn it.
Isla Fisher.
I thought I'd have it.
We texted about this earlier today.
Yeah.
We had this debate on the podcast last week if it was Ilsa or Isla, and I Googled her this morning, and it is Isla Fisher.
Okay, so the S is silent? Oh boy. All right, Isla Fisher. And she plays Denise, the girl next door who Rod has a crush on. I think she kind of went away to college, but she came back in town, so they know each other. And of course, Rod is all.
Yeah, it's very vague. It's they're seeing each other apparently for the first time in a while at the beginning of the movie, and it's very much like if you've seen the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst as Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and they're like sort of bonding over their backyard fence. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, very Mary Jane, Peter Parker vibes. Very strong.
The fact that Isla Fisher is a famous redhead too, that enhances the feeling. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe that's part of why they cast her.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Rod has this big stunt he's going to do next, where he's going to jump the pool, the community pool. He invites Denise over to it, and he gets ready to do it, and he of course, like all his stunts, it goes horribly wrong. He just falls into the pool with his moped and embarrasses himself.
Apparently, that was a stunt that Andy Samberg did himself. He did as many stunts as he was able or allowed to do, and that apparently the pool thing was one of them.
Yeah, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, he's like the comedic Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he's a daredevil of our time.
That's right. You can't...
And as long as we're talking about stunts, here's another interesting tidbit I found on the IMDb trivias. It says all of Andy Samberg's stunt doubles had prosthetic noses to make them as big as Andy's. Hurtful way to phrase that. Jorma Taccone and Akiva Schaffer played a joke on Samberg by requesting that the prosthetics be larger than his own nose so he would feel insecure.
Jesus. A friend does that. I mean, I guess because they're old friends, you can do that, but
yeah,
still,
busting. That's some serious chop busting there.
Yeah, it's like, hey, man.
And possibly racist. I don't know.
Oh, anti-Semitic? You mean
anti-Semitic? Yeah.
But I mean, they're all Jewish, aren't they? So I guess it's not.
I think they are. Yeah. So okay, I guess when you're a Jew, you're allowed to make fun of other Jews.
When you're a Jew all the way. Wait, where was I? Yeah. All right. So
you were singing from West Side Story.
I was. All right. So Rod goes home. Apparently, neither his mom or his dad went to see him do the jump. Also Kevin wasn't there either. He comes back home soaking wet, and he finds out that his stepdad Frank is actually quite sick, so much so that he needs a heart transplant, and he needs like $50,000 to have the transplant.
Yeah, and then Rod is like, well, why didn't you tell me this was happening? And the mom says like, oh, we didn't think you could handle it. And he's like, oh, well, Kevin must be torn up because he just found out about this too. And they're like, oh no, we told Kevin.
That was hilarious. And actually,
go ahead.
Well, no, this whole thing where Frank needs a heart transplant and he needs $50,000 for it. I didn't realize it until I looked it up. That's the exact same plot as the movie Dirty Work.
Yeah, I read that too. I didn't know that as I've never seen Dirty Work, but
yeah, I mean, I remember seeing it, but it was like years and years ago, and yeah, I remember it was like, oh, okay. It didn't wow me, but like I know it's again one of those cult classic films that like people love, even though it did horribly at the box office. So, like,
yeah, I know Dirty Work flopped very badly.
Oof. I mean, maybe not as bad as Hot Rod, but it wasn't pretty.
I don't know. If we ever do Dirty Work, we can look that up. But
all right. So then Rod learns that Frank needs his heart transplant. He's very upset. He's very emotional. So then he goes to his quiet place, which is like in the middle of the woods somewhere, and he does like a Footloose type of dance montage.
It is. I don't think it's like a Footloose dance montage. As best as I can remember that sequence in Footloose, it I think was almost shot for shot. He is doing like all the same dance moves that Kevin Bacon and his dance double did in that scene in Footloose. Where if you remember where he's so upset he just like drives off to this abandoned warehouse or something, and he's like drinking a beer and throwing the beer bottle and then swinging from the rafters and doing all this stuff, and we see Andy Samberg doing all this, but it's much more awkward.
It's more like more flaily, flailing.
It's like the Footloose dance as done by Ed Grimley.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, and there are some shots where he's obviously doubled, but it's like low light, so you can't quite see the person's face. And they're the same song as the Footloose scene. My God. And I don't know the name of that song, but it's like you never. That song.
It's Never by Moving Pictures.
Okay. Well, they say never a lot, so it makes sense that the song is called Never.
That's right. Absolutely.
So I enjoyed that. I liked that little Footloose homage. At one point he because like Ren's like a gymnast, he starts doing like treating a thing like a pommel horse, and Andy Samberg's character does the same thing, and he gets up on a rock, and the rock has literal handlebars on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of this movie is so strange, but yeah, there is that, but then how this whole scene ends, he accidentally like trips on a log and he goes like, "Oh shit!" And then he trips and falls and he rolls down a hill and I looked this up, 47 seconds.
That's a long time.
It's like literally just like almost a minute of him just rolling and falling down a hill, just hurting himself on every stone along the way. That's commitment to a bit.
Yeah, they take it to kind of an absurd length. And we also find out a little earlier than this, because I had my note on this earlier, that Rod's natural father was an anonymous stuntman. And we find out a little bit more about his father over the course of the movie. But I just wanted to say that so we establish that as close to the beginning as possible.
No, that's good. Yeah, Rod had the picture of his father. Of course, he has a mustache, and it's a picture of him with Evel Knievel, and he like
who is it. Evel Knievel? If you weren't around in the 70s, Evel Knievel was huge. He was the guy. Do you remember Evel Knievel firsthand, Darren?
I remember.
I'm not sure if you have a memory of him or not.
I mean, I know of him. I know I've seen like videos of him and like all these crazy, dangerous stunts. I know definitely in the 70s he was like the dude.
Yeah. And when I was like really young, I was a fan of Evel Knievel. And I remember trying to get me an Evel Knievel jumpsuit thing that I could wear for Halloween, I'm assuming. But I kept outgrowing it. She could never find one that fit because I was this is when I was like 4 or 5, it must have been. And I was growing so fast that she couldn't find one that fit me. I think we eventually got one. But that's one of the things I remember from my childhood.
I mean, those jumpsuits are pretty badass. They're primed to make a comeback, but I guess it's one of the things where you can only really wear them at like parties and stuff. You can't really wear them, day to day.
Now you can. Everybody's at home. You can wear an Evel Knievel jumpsuit if you are so inclined and you already have one. And if you don't have one, you can probably order one off the internet.
Damn straight. Yeah, full cape and everything.
No one is. Yeah, get the cape. Wear the helmet. You do you while we're in quarantine. That's what I'm saying.
Dude, this is the time. This is the time right now.
There will never
my credit card out. I'm getting my credit card out right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can just jump over objects in your home. I don't know what you have strewn about your floor, but jump over that and hit Daredevil in your home.
Coffee tables, ottomans. Run the gamut.
Yeah, exactly. So when Rod finishes falling down this hill after 47 seconds?
Yep.
Okay. He lands by this billboard saying "one big jump," and he gets the inspiration that he is going to raise money to save his stepfather Frank's life by jumping 15 buses, which is one more than Evel Knievel jumped. And so he has this inspiration. He's gonna make this big jump to raise the $50,000 that they need to pay for his medical treatment.
Yeah, and like the way he kind of presents this idea to his crew is interesting because like his crew's there. He said he's going to tell them. He's telling them this idea, but then Dave
telling them in their backyard.
Yeah, they're in the backyard. Kevin, of course, is wearing Heelys, which took me back. It's like, oh yeah, I remember those Heelys, those shoes with the skate. Sorry.
What are Heelys? I don't think I know.
You don't remember those? Those were big in like the early aughts where it's like shoes, but they have like a wheel in the heel of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
I knew what those are. I never knew the name of them.
I think they were called Heelys. It was like they're like roller skates, but without the front wheels.
Okay. Yeah. I know what you mean. I just never heard them called Heelys.
Yeah, like I've just seen a bunch of people in the malls with them. So anyway, he's Rod is telling all his crew about this idea, but then Dave gets up to leave. He's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta go to my job at the ice skating rink." So there's this whole little montage of Rod telling him the ideas while Dave is working at the rink, like he's operating the Zamboni with all three of them there, and then he's like, stocking the giving out ice skates while Rod is talking. It was very. I don't know the way the
film and you see him like using a calculator in the back room to add up receipts and stuff, and
yeah, like the way the film is shot and the way it's kind of cut, like the way it like quick cuts to the next scene. It kind of reminded me of like Napoleon Dynamite a little bit.
I got a big Napoleon Dynamite vibe from this movie.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So that's basically Rod's going to do this. He has this big idea. He's going to jump 15 buses, earn enough money to help Frank with his heart transplant. And he gets Denise, the next door neighbor, to join the team. He introduces Denise to the team. You know, there's that whole scene where, like, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Rod. I like to party. And then Dave's like, oh, I'm Dave. I also like to party. And everybody likes to party.
Yeah, and they'd all they can't get the basic introductions down. Everybody is supposed to say their name and a thing about themselves, and everybody just wants to say, "I like to party." And he's like, "No, you don't like to party. I like to party. That's my thing.
I'm the only one who parties." Yeah. All right, so then basically it's just, I mean, the plot is pretty simple. So then it's basically them helping Rod to train to do this big jump. There's a scene where he tries to hold his breath underwater in a pool. He called on the soul
Outdoor
of a dolphin.
Pool.
Yes, an outdoor kiddie pool. Then there's like another scene where he's going down a hill on like a dolly, it looks like, and his safety word is, there's that whole scene where the safety word is whiskey, which was interesting. Lonely Island loves hip hop, and they got that from a Gangstar album called "The Moment of Truth," where somebody pronounces the word "what" like that in one of the sketches. So that's from that "what" they got the whiskey sketch. It's like it's a little factoid right there.
Okay, that is a factoid.
Yeah. So then, of course, I mean, I don't know what the whole point of this was, but like it was just him like speeding down like a steep hill on like a dolly, and so he just goes speeding down and he crashes into somebody's trailer, and like the owner of the trailer comes out saying, you just messed up my trailer," and then like Rico comes out of nowhere and starts beating the guy up.
Yeah, there's a sustained beating of the trailer owner.
Yeah, now I'll admit, like, I laughed out loud when, like, I think Rico said, "Oh, I'm super pumped. I've been drinking green tea all goddamn day."
Yeah. Danny McBride is pretty funny in this movie. I mean, he goes all out on his characters, and it's Danny McBride, so you kind of know what you're getting there.
Yeah, if you've seen him in this or like the Foot Fist Way, like Danny McBride, he's just the gift that keeps on giving.
And throughout this whole training thing, while Denise is on the crew, Rod is getting ready to ask Denise out. He's very attracted to her. Like early in the film, he like tries to express it, and he's like, "You look pretty," and she's like, "What?" And he says, "I meant you look shitty," because he's that flustered and bad with women.
Right.
And just as he's getting ready to ask Denise out at the end of a training day, a guy pulls up in a Corvette, and who is it but Denise's boyfriend, Jonathan, played by Will Arnett.
Yes, we get the great Will Arnett in here. And he's basically like a kind of a douche bro type of Corvette driving dude. So
yeah. And Rod gets so jealous that he immediately goes up to the girl at the counter at, I'm assuming it's a Dairy Queen. I don't know for sure if it was a Dairy Queen, but if it's not,
it's like the ice cream.
Yeah, it's like the local ice cream place. It's like a Dairy Queen, or whatever the Dairy Queen equivalent is in your town.
Right.
So Rod gets so jealous, he goes up and asks out Kathy, the cashier girl at the DQ, and then she accepts, and then he asks Denise and Jonathan to double date with them. And then we cut to them in the restaurant, and Kathy has not shown up for the date. She's standing Rod up.
Yeah. And actually, before that, I don't know why this made me laugh. There's a lot of things here that made me laugh. I was like, I can't explain why, but like when Rod is on his way to the date, he sings that song while he's driving on his moped. It's like, "Oh, when you go on a date, you put on a shirt and you drive your bike to the date." Yeah, I don't know why that made me laugh so much. It was, totally improvised too.
So on the date, we discover more what a jerk Denise's boyfriend Jonathan is. He sees his buddy Sullivan hanging out at the bar. They're at like an Applebee's or something, or a TGI Fridays, one of those chain restaurant type things. And he gets up and goes to join his buddy at the bar, and we can see him like literally hitting on girls at the bar with his buddy.
Yeah, he's a bit of a jerk face.
He's a douche nozzle.
Yeah,
but we find out a little bit more about Rod's history. He explains to Denise that his dad was a stuntman in his own right, and that he was the guy who tested stunts for Evel Knievel to make sure that they were safe.
Right. I actually have the story up if you want me to read it.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
All right, so Rod talks to Denise about his dad. He's like, oh, yeah, he used to Evel Knievel testing his bikes before big jumps. He would do the jumps first to make sure that they were safe and let Evel come in and get all the glory. After a while, the old man said, to hell with that. I want the credit I deserve. So one afternoon, he set out to jump 10 milk trucks. He nailed the takeoff, but when he landed, something terrible happened. His front tire exploded like a cannonball, and his handlebars went straight through his head. Blood was everywhere. His teeth were ground down to a powder, and the front of his face exploded out the back of his skull. He died instantly the next day.
So that's what happened with Rod's dad.
He died instantly the next day.
So Rod, he's continuing his training. He's trying to earn money, and he comes up with the idea to be a stuntman for hire for parties. And we get a montage of him at various parties where he's like being a human piñata. He's being beaten with sticks by little kids and dropping a bag of candy. And another party, he has himself set on fire, and he's just doing every stupid stunt-related thing you could do.
Yeah, and he's doing all this to help out his stepdad, but then he's also saying like, yeah, I'm just doing this so my stepdad can be healthy enough so I can beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, it's a weird character motivation for sure.
Yeah, it is so strange because like throughout the movie, Rod is like telling his stepdad, "Yeah, I'm getting you healthy so I could beat the snot out of you." And he's like, "Oh, you couldn't." Like he still antagonizes him even though he's sick. It's like, "Oh, you couldn't beat a drum." He's like, "Oh, it's like I can't wait to punch your face in." And
during this montage, I noticed that Danny McBride's character did something that he did in the last movie with Danny McBride that we watched.
Tropic Thunder?
And Tropic Thunder. And in this movie, Danny McBride, he once again sets off an explosion prematurely when Rod's like in a tower and he's supposed to escape from that, and Rico sets off the explosion prematurely. I thought, well, that's a weird connection.
Oh, so you're saying Tropic Thunder was inspired by Hot Rod?
Or I'm saying that Danny McBride is horribly typecast.
I see. That probably makes more sense. Yes.
Yeah. But over the course of this, we can see like a bit of a connection between Rod and Denise growing. I mean, as much of a connection as yet. I honestly thought Isla Fisher's character in this movie was really horribly underwritten.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, Isla Fisher and I would say Sissy Spacek. For some reason, the women in this movie. I mean, I don't mean to be all feminist or whatever. Well, maybe I do. But
they're the two female parts, and both of them are rather underwritten.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, like they weren't like Isla basically is the girl, the pretty girl.
She is the bland pretty girl. Actually, like just a few days ago on YouTube, I was just going down the YouTube rabbit hole, and I watched a clip from SNL Weekend Update. And do you remember a character that Cecily Strong did a couple of years ago at this point, where she was like the bland girl in every male-driven comedy?
Yes, no, that's exactly who she is. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what Isla Fisher's character seemed like in this movie, because she's just the bland, pretty girl, and she doesn't really have any interests of her own or a backstory of her own. We don't really ever find out what her deal is. She is just defined solely in relationship to Andy Samberg's Rod, which...
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the one thing I can think of, like they do a scene of it where Denise teaches Rod how to do Tai Chi,
Mhm.
and then Rod asks her, "Or is there a move you can do in Tai Chi where you make somebody crap their pants?"
Right.
And like she does it on Rod, and Rod, of course, craps his pants, but he plays it off like he doesn't, like he
Right.
didn't. Like, oh, that didn't work. I'm just gonna leave right now and totally not change my pants because that didn't work.
There's nothing that women love more than slick dudes who pretend that they haven't crapped their pants when they really have crapped their pants.
It's a real aphrodisiac.
That's what the ladies love.
That's right, fellas.
But yeah, so that was a little frustrating because it's like, I've seen Wedding Crashers, I've seen Isla Fisher in other movies. She can handle comedy, like let her do some funny stuff. But
Yeah,
she's
that's
mostly
true.
there just to react to Rod, which is kind of too bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hear you.
Because it had to be, it had to be frustrating for her because she's got comedy chops.
Yeah, she absolutely does. But
Yeah.
I don't know. C'est la vie.
Whatever. So Rod's stepbrother Kevin, he makes this promo video for Rod, and they're really pushing this because they're trying to raise as much money as they possibly can for Frank's surgery. And then we had a sequence. This was a sequence I liked. I don't have this character's name, but the guy who was handing out the flyers and just like literally tossing them in people's faces.
Oh, Richardson, yeah, like he was on an early. He was actually at the community pool. He wants to be part of their team, but they won't let him because he doesn't do anything. And
Right.
it seems like all he can do is like kind of this hip thrust, this pelvic, this rhythmic pelvic thrust. That's like his big move.
Yeah, so he's supposed to pass out these flyers, and everybody's like passing out the flyers or stapling up in a normal way. And this guy Richardson, he just literally tosses a pile of flyers into people's faces, and then he like faces the camera and starts doing pelvic thrusts.
It is ridiculous. It's just like what's happening now here? What is this?
It's ridiculous, but I thought that was very funny. I liked Richardson.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing him pop up a little more.
Richardson, the movie.
But all through this, Kevin is shooting Rod, doing all his stunts, or more accurately, attempts at stunts. And they have a big movie premiere for Hot Rod at the ice rink. And they've raised over $49,000. So they're just on the cusp of earning all the money that they need. And as the movie starts playing, Rod is very surprised that people are laughing at him in the movie.
Right, because the way Rod plays it, like he's the goof, he's the dope, but like everything, he doesn't see himself the way other people see him. Like to him, he's like cool and he's very earnest and heartfelt. So like when he's doing these stunts and he's giving these speeches, life's a stunt, go stunt it or whatever he said. Like he's giving all these heartfelt speeches, but people just see him as being ridiculous and they laugh at him, even though what he's doing doesn't. He feels like it's not meant to be laughed at.
Right. And he gets very frustrated. He gets very fed up. He orders Kevin to stop the movie, and then he goes up to the projection room. He rips out the projector and he like throws it out the window, and he storms outside. And he's very mad at Kevin because he thought Kevin made him look foolish. And we find out that the projector that Rod threw out the window crashed into the windshield of a cop car. So Rod loses all the money that he raised to pay for those damages.
Yeah, that's not good.
So he was just there, and it was victory was snatched away from him.
So close. And so then he goes home dejected, and then his mom has a heart-to-heart with him, and then his mom lets him know the truth about his birth father, about what he actually really was.
Yeah. He finds out that his mom has been lying about his biological father all his life. His dad was actually a cashier in a tire shop, and he died choking on some pie.
I don't mean to laugh at that, but it's the most ridiculous way to go. It's just like, oh yeah, he really wanted to win that contest.
Honestly, I could think of worse ways to go than choking on some pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you die, but you have pie.
Yeah. It's a sweet death.
That ain't that bad of a thing. I wouldn't mind dying with a little pie in my mouth.
Yeah, dying on dessert. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. That's. I mean, I don't think they said what type of pie it was. I mean, what type of pie would you like to choke to death on, Darren?
Excellent question, sir. I've thought about this, and
let's get into it.
Okay. All right. Now, I mean, Apple would be, of course, that would be my first go-to. Apple crumb.
Classic choice.
But I might
apple crumb. Ooh.
Yeah. I'm gonna say apple crumb. Yeah.
That's a good solid choice.
Yeah, I think that would be it. I mean, blueberry might be in the mix, and maybe even a nice.
Would be kind of messy, because especially if you're choking to death, you might spit some of that up, and then you get blueberry stains all over you, and you don't want to die with blueberry stains on you.
That's embarrassing. I mean, we all saw Stand By Me. We saw that. That scene.
I mean, you're choking to death, but you don't want it to look like you're a messy eater.
Yeah, what will people think?
Yeah, I think apple crumb is a solid choice.
I mean, pecan is good too.
Pecan's okay. A little pecan pie goes a long way for me.
I hear you. All right.
Cherry pie, I think I'd stay away from. One, because of the potential of the messiness, the same as the blueberry, and also because it would stick that horrible Warrant song in my head, and I don't want to have that in my head when I leave this mortal coil.
She's so good, make a grown man cry.
No, you don't. Nobody needs that. Nobody.
No, Lord, no.
I could see myself choking to death on a peach cobbler.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Well done, sir.
A nice peach cobbler, maybe with a little ice cream on top.
Oh, but that's a cobbler. But I mean, that's a cobbler. That's not a pie. I mean,
that's true. A cobbler is not in the pie family.
I mean, we could split hairs. I mean, I'll leave this up to the judges. But I don't know. If we're gonna die on a pie, let's make it a pie. Let's not cut corners.
Okay, you're right. There should be no ambiguity about the pie that we choke to death on. I think apple crumb is a really solid choice, man.
Nailed it.
I mean, you could go. I mean, I do love a good key lime pie.
Oh, I didn't even think about key lime. Damn it.
But it's not a real dense pie, so unless it was frozen, I don't really see how you could choke to death on a key lime pie.
Okay. What about banana cream, or is that?
Ooh, banana cream. Again, I think it would be very tough to choke on banana cream because it's basically just pudding.
That's very true. It has to be okay. Guys, call in. Let us know what pie you want to die on.
Yeah, no, I'm very fascinated by this question now. But I think apple crumb. I think that has the taste quality you want, and it also has the right sort of density to choke to death on.
Put some whipped cream on it, glass of milk.
Ooh, yeah,
I'm going. I'm ready to go.
That's a good way to leave.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Oh, I'm gonna just go on record and say the choking to death on pie. That's probably a cooler death than a stunt related death.
That's true. Fair enough. Yeah. All right. So we don't
know for sure what type of pie he choked to death on, but I'm just gonna assume it's apple crumb.
That's fair enough. I'm gonna tweet the guys at Lonely Island and find out. Get to the bottom of this.
We should find this out. We need to do the research.
At Yormika Tacone. Hey, what pie did
But anyway, so Rod, of course, is very distraught at hearing this news, and so he gives up being a stuntman. He tries to be an adult. When we next see him, he's in a liquor store and he's in a polo shirt and khakis, and he's buying up all the liquor in the store.
Yeah, white wine, Zinfandel.
Yes.
Like adults do.
Adults drink. Yeah.
Yes.
They don't really say how old Rod is in the movie, do they?
Not really. I mean, you get the sense like I would say early mid-20s or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they kind of hinted that like Denise went away to college and she's back. So good call. So I mean, based on that, I'm guessing they're like in their early mid-20s.
What do you think Denise majored in college?
Here we go. All right.
We have next to nothing to go on here. We know she does Tai Chi.
Right.
And we know
So
she's attracted to Rod for some reason.
yeah, she's real. She's into him like at the first scene she's in. She's like, hey, Rod. I was like, really? Huh. I mean, but if you write a script, you can just write it any way you want, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, even though she's got the jerky boyfriend in Jonathan, she does seem to be into Rod. Rod is growing on her over the course of the movie.
Rod.
But I don't know. I don't know if we even have enough information to speculate what Denise might have majored in college.
Yeah, I mean, based on what we know, I would say maybe she majored in Tai Chi. I don't know.
You major in Tai Chi? I don't even know.
It could be an elective. I don't know. We don't know what college she went to.
Yeah.
Maybe she went to Berkeley.
Maybe. But
all right, so
on a college sweatshirt on her at some point is all I'm saying.
That's very true. Very true, good sir.
There's some backstory, Lonely Island. That's all we're saying.
That's right. At Yorma Tacone. All right, so Rod is basically giving up being a stuntman. The crew is dispersed. We also forgot to mention, Rod actually gets into a fight with his brother Kevin because he blames Kevin for everybody laughing at him, saying, "Oh, you made me look like a fool in this film. It's all your fault." And like they have a bit of a falling out.
Yeah.
So then we go into this pretty weird scene where Dave calls Rod out of.
Let's be real, Darren. They're mostly all weird scenes.
It's a very weird. Well, I mean, I'll get into it right now. But when I was looking into it, one of the movies that Andy Samberg says like inspired him, like humor-wise, was Wet Hot American Summer. And if you think about that movie and this movie, you definitely can see the correlation.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, they both have like a certain surreal humor. I think I definitely would put Wet Hot American Summer several notches above Hot Rod, though.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd say that. Yeah,
I think Wet Hot American Summer, it builds much better than Hot Rod does. Hot Rod gets pretty weird pretty early, and Wet Hot American Summer gets progressively weirder throughout the film, and that was the thing that really blew me away about it when I first saw the film.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Like I remember watching it, and it was kind of weird in the beginning, but funny. But then from that to where it ends, you're just like, what?
No comparison. Yeah.
By the end of that movie, I was like, what is happening? What?
I was thinking about it. We could talk about Wet Hot American Summer someday on the podcast because it does star Janeane Garofalo, who was for 1 year, or maybe slightly less than one season, a cast member on SNL.
It's true enough. Amy Poehler's in it too, right?
Amy Poehler. Well, yeah, if you want to count Amy Poehler as a cast member, sure.
And Molly Shannon.
Oh, and Molly Shannon. Okay, sure. If that's your standard for SNL cast members, like somebody who's been on SNL for several seasons.
Yeah, it kind of, yeah.
I guess. Okay, fine.
Oh yeah. All right. So back to this movie. Talking about a whole nother movie here. So there's a scene where Dave calls Rod up in the middle of the night and be like, "Hey, Rod, how you doing? You man? Just want to see how you're doing. See if you want to hang out. Maybe take me to the hospital. Whatever. If you can. If you can't, no worries.
Guy stuff."
Yeah. And Rod's like, "What? You need to go to a hospital?" It's like, "Yeah, kind of, but if you can't, no problem." So, of course, Rod takes his mom's minivan, picks up Dave, and Dave has a huge hunk of metal sticking out of his head, like above his eye.
Right to the side of his eye. And he's like, "Oh my God, is it noticeable?"
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it is. And then he tells him how it happened. He was basically at work. His friend Derek, played by Akiva Schaffer, the director, gives him some acid. And so he's high on acid. And then he does like some metal woodworking, some metal shopping. And he gets a piece of metal flies off and like hits him right, gets stuck in above his eye.
And apparently Bill Hader based his character of Dave off of his friend Eric, and the tripping ball scene was based off true events involving Hader and his friend, But in this case, Hader was Rod. So Hader apparently did have to drive a friend to the hospital after he injured himself tripping balls off on acid.
I mean, when something like that happens in your life, you got to put it.
Yeah, you were pretty much legally required to put that in your movie.
Just a friend calls you like, hey, like if I called you like, hey man, so I accidentally cut off my leg. Can you take me to the ER when you can, John?
Yeah. And as long as we're talking about Bill Hader's character of Dave, this might be a good place to mention that Bill Hader's long hair in this movie, it is not a wig.
He grew it out that long. That is, I thought there was like
no, he did not grow it out that long. He had hair extensions put in, which he wore through the entire summer the movie was shot.
I mean, that's dedication. I mean, that's got to get hot, right?
Yeah, he went. I wouldn't say it's like a full mullet, but it is in the mullet kind of territory.
Yeah, it's definitely like scraggly looking, like a roadie for I don't know, Dokken or something like that.
Yeah, or Whitesnake or something like that. Yeah, one of those '80s hair metal bands.
Here I go again.
On my own.
Mm-hmm. So so then as Rod drops off Dave kind of has a heart-to-heart with him, and he actually gives him some good advice, saying, hey, if it sucks about your dad, you find the truth about him, but if you really love doing stunts and you can do something to actually help your stepdad, who I know you love, you should actually do it. So, he's like, he actually convinces Rod to like, all right, maybe I should do this stuntman thing, give it another go.
Yeah, he's inspired again. And then after this, Rod finds out he reconciles with Kevin. You want to where they reconcile?
Yeah, it's another strange scene where Kevin's in his room doing karaoke to his dolls. He's singing like a he's singing like a George Michael song, and then then he turns it off. Then he talks to Rod. Rod comes in and he says, "Hey, sorry for what I did. Are we cool? Cool beans, cool beans." And then each of them said like "cool beans" again, "cool beans." Cool beans, cool beans, cool beans. And then it kind of goes off into like this kind of DJ, like they just say cool beans back and forth, but then it has like a beat behind it. And it's like cool beans, cool beans. So I'm like, it's
edited in a very abrupt fashion where they're obviously like rewinding the film, like playing the film backwards and playing it forwards again. And they have very abrupt cuts in there. They're leaning into the artificiality of the scene.
Right. Like if you've seen, it reminded me a lot of the one sketch from last week with Kyle and Beck.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely.
It was a lot like that. It was very weird.
What you're writing, what's cracking, what's shaking.
Yeah. And like, from what I've read, I think like the director Akiva, he actually took out that scene, but then but according to test audiences, they wanted him to keep it in. It's like a lot of people said that was their favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, I have it up here. It says it was originally pulled by Akiva Schaffer, but the scene was edited by Sandberg and Taccone, and eventually Schaffer reinserted the scene in the last test screening, where it received high remarks from the audience, with some saying it was one of their favorite parts of the film.
I mean, I remember when I first saw it, it was very... I know I've said this before, but it was a very weird scene. Like, weird is pretty much the whole vibe of this movie, but like cutesy, quirky weird.
Yeah. So anyway, they reconcile, and Rod discovers that Kevin shared his video of Rod online, and the thing has gone viral. And now an AM radio station agrees to sponsor Rod's stunt of jumping over the 15 buses.
AM radio.
AM radio. That's the future of media right there.
Damn straight.
We hope to someday parlay this whole podcasting thing into an AM radio gig.
Dude, fingers crossed.
That's the dream,
lips,
right?
To God's ears.
And then we're getting towards the end of the movie, and we pull in another SNL cast member, someone who was credited at the beginning, but it took so long for his character to show up. I'd honestly forgot that he was going to be in the movie. It's Chris Parnell.
Yes, Mr. Pasternak, the owner of the AM radio station.
Yeah, the manager and the main DJ. of the radio station, and he's got a lot riding on this stunt because he spent the station's last 15,000 on this stunt.
They only have 15,000. Oh,
yeah. That
AM radio.
Risk. Yeah, and he is such a booster of AM radio that he has a tattoo on himself of. It's basically like the Calvin mud flap where he's like peeing on the logo.
Right.
But it's like Calvin, but not Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes, because that would be actionable. And the Calvin peeing stuff is bootleg to begin with.
Right. And so it's like Calvin peeing on both color TV and FM radio.
Right. Those are the two banes of his existence. And he's like, and I know it's not really physically possible to pee on two things at the same time, but I was thinking that perhaps he'd had sex the night before and there was still a little bit of residue, and that is splitting the stream. He explains this in quite graphic detail.
He's given us a lot of thought.
And apparently when they originally wrote the scene, they wanted to use the word semen, but the MPAA objected to that. They would have like bumped the rating up to an R or something. So they had to say residue instead. Yeah,
but I mean, semen is like the technical term.
It's a clinical term, but I guess if it's used in a sexual context, it's not good. I don't know.
Oh boy.
I mean, the board, they've got very arbitrary rules.
Yeah, and plus that tattoo looked like it was done in pen. I gotta say, like, that don't look.
Wow. Just blowing up the veracity of the tattoo.
Yeah. It's like the budget person was like, just get a bunch of Bics. Just draw it.
You're saying that Chris Parnell was not actually tattooed for this movie?
Yeah, I'm saying that. I'm calling you out, Lonely Island. That don't look
all right. A Lonely Island, I still believe in you, but Darren has his doubts.
That's right. Parnell, where's the dedication to your craft? If you really believed in your character, you would have gotten a tattoo of Calvin peeing on FM radio and color TV.
I mean, it seems like the least you could do. I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio, he wrestles a bear.
Yeah, exactly. You get it.
So.
You get it. All right, so
I mean, Parnell, you could get a tattoo like that now. You do like voice work these days, so you don't have to be on camera quite as much. So get the bear tattoo. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, use some of that Archer money, man.
Exactly. Use some of that Rick and Morty money that's coming your way.
All right, he's on Rick and Morty too. He's
the dad on Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah, he's loaded.
I hope he is, at least. I mean, he certainly deserves to be.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so as the movie goes along, we see Rod calling Denise's cell phone, which is the old flip phone, he wants to tell her about the jump, but Jonathan answers, and then he says,
"Oh yeah," in case you've forgotten.
Yes, and Will Arnett, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll tell her." And of course, he doesn't tell her because he's a douchebag.
He's like, "Oh, wrong number." And he's like, "Oh, wait, let me take down the details." And Andy Samberg literally says, "Are you just waving your hand in the air, pretending you're writing this stuff down?" And he's like, "No, I'm writing it down."
And he's not like a douche.
Will Arnett, by the way, he only shot 2 days on this movie.
Yeah, I could see that. So it's the morning of the jump. Rod gets ready. He leaves his house, walks down the street in slow motion. Kevin, walks beside him, and they walk in slow motion. Rico comes and Dave comes. They're all walking down the street in slow motion. As people kind of, on the street, kind of look at them. It's like a very inspiring slow motion walk, like that.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen it 100 times in movies, like Armageddon or whatever. And then, of course, like as they walk down the street, people are following them, and then they're kind of looking behind and being like, "Who are these people? Why are they following us?" And then it's like it has like I think they're playing the song "You're the Voice" by John Farnham, who had some songs in the '80s movie Rad, the BMX movie Rad. So it's like a very '80s inspiring type of scene to show. We're like,
I didn't catch. I've never seen the movie Rad, so I didn't catch that. That's a very inside reference.
Yeah, I never seen Rad either. I looked it up and wrote
You've
it down.
seen Rad. Don't front.
No, I haven't.
Seen Rad.
I've never seen Rad.
You've got the poster of
No.
Rad up on your wall at home there. I've been to your house. I've seen it.
I have a Rad tattoo on my chest that looks like it's drawn in pen.
Yeah, and also that movie where a young Josh Brolin played a skateboarder that I can't remember the name of.
Oh, Gleaming the Cube or something?
Maybe that was it. I'm gonna look that up now.
Okay. But yeah, so anyway, it's weird because so the crew and Rod are walking down the street. There's like a whole bunch of people behind them. People are singing this inspiring 80s songs in the street. And then out of nowhere, one guy picks up a garbage can and throws it through a storefront window. And then a riot breaks out. Like people are flipping over cars or setting cars on fire. Some people knock over a man in a wheelchair. There's a couple making out. And then suddenly it's like a big blowout riot. And then Rod and the guys just like run the hell out of there. It's a very weird turn it takes.
By the way, I found the information on the Josh Brolin skateboarding movie. It was called Thrashin', but it is also known as Skate Gang. So, and it was made in 1986.
Thrashin'. That's all right.
Thrashin'. Yeah. The only reason I remember this film is because it had advertisements on the back covers of comic books that I was reading in the 80s. And I just saw this poster a lot. I don't think I ever saw it playing in a theater, but I remembered that it was a young Josh Brolin.
Wow. Yeah, there was a while.
It also started.
There was a while in the. Wait, who did it star?
It stars Tony Alva, Tony Hawk, Christian Holsoy, and Steve Caballero. So a lot of famous skaters. It also stars Sherilyn Fenn, who was cast by the director together with her boyfriend at the time, Johnny Depp, who was later replaced by the producer.
Interesting. Wow.
And the Red Hot Chili Peppers make an appearance in the film. So,
I did not know. Yeah, for a while.
I'm going to have to find this movie now.
Yeah, there you go. You got yourself an assignment there, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a while, like in the 80s, like BMX bikes and skateboards were like all the rage.
Yeah. There was a big skating fad in the 80s. I think because of Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I think Back to the Future made skating look really cool again. So I think a lot. I just remember when I was like in junior high, around 1985 or 86. That was when like a lot of the kids seemed to get into skating.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I never skateboarded. I was a bike man. I think I could still ride a bike pretty well, but skateboarding it wasn't my bag, baby.
Could you be a daredevil? Did you ever like jump over buses on your bike or on your moped?
No, I just like I think I rode backwards once for like 5 seconds, and that was pretty badass for me. I was
there
like,
you go.
Right,
there you go. Good. Yeah.
That was it. So anyway, Rod and the crew run away from this riot. Rico is holding a TV out of nowhere, and
and he's like, "Oh, I don't believe how people are so irresponsible as to, just goodness. All you can do is just get out of there and try and hope you're safe." And exactly. The entire time he's talking about this, he's holding a television that he's obviously boosted from somewhere.
Exactly. So then they get ready to. What's up?
Went looting.
Yes, looting. Absolutely. So they get ready to do the jump. Then we cut to a scene where Jonathan and Denise are together, and Jonathan's going by a store to pick up some vitamin water, and of course a box of dong bags so they can knock boots later. As you do, it's her birthday, and so then as he's going in, Denise hears that Rod is doing the jump, and of course, Jonathan doesn't care. And of course,
she had no idea about this because Jonathan never gave her a message because, again, jerk boyfriend.
Right. Of course. He's a stereotypical jerk boyfriend that's in every 80s movie. Right. And of course, that's when Denise realizes Jonathan's wrong for him, and he just leaves him there. And he's like, babe, wait, babe, wait, babe.
And she runs away. And the joke is like, she's running away. She's going on foot. And he could easily chase after her. but he just stands behind his car and he's just like, "No, babe, wait, no."
Very much so. And so then we cut to the jump. It's a big spectacle. There's like tons of people in the bleachers. I think people said that you can see Andy Samberg's actual mom and dad in the audience too, if you look close enough and know where to look. And then they have like this '80s arena rock band playing called Gown. And it took me a minute to realize it, but that band that they have, like this old, dressed up in '80s regalia, that's actually one of my favorite bands, Queens of the Stone Age.
Really?
Yeah, the lead singer, Josh Homme. If you look close enough, he's like, oh yeah, that's the dude for Queens of the Stone Age. And then you see the drummer and the guitar.
I mean, the guys in the band, they were obviously all wearing wigs and stuff. And I saw like one guy, I was like, is that Horatio Sands in a wig? And I don't know for sure if it was Horatio Sands or not. I didn't see anything about him in the IMDb trivia. So maybe it's just a guy in Queens of the Stone Age who looks like Horatio Sands. But
they
obviously have a good sense of humor. Do you remember when they appeared on SNL when Will Ferrell was hosting?
Oh, how could I forget? It's one of the greatest SNL moments of all time.
Yeah, and Will Ferrell comes on as Gene, the cowbell player from Don't Fear the Reaper, and he joined him in on the cowbell.
Yeah, when they were playing Little Sister. Yeah, like that's one of the things that I love about that band. Like they don't take themselves too seriously. They're not above like having fun and being goofy. Kind of like Foo Fighters, where they're like, we can, it's nothing wrong with being funny and silly sometimes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because musicians can get so pretentious so easily. So it is nice to see some bands that are just, let's just be goofy. Let's just have fun.
I respect that. So Queens of the Stone Age makes a cameo in this movie.
That's very cool. I didn't know that was them.
Yeah. So Rod's ready to do the jump. Everybody's looking. He is very nervous. His crew gave him a new motorcycle because they thought the moped wouldn't be able to make the jump. They gave him like a leather jumpsuit that's pretty A1. And but he's like, nervous and he could really get hurt. And then of course, out of nowhere, Denise shows up, gives him an inspiring kiss. And that's when Chris Parnell is like, what's up?
And it's kind of an awkward kiss at first because her mouth is like wide open when she's going in for the kiss.
Yeah, it was like, that's not how you kiss.
For some reason, they imply that Denise has no idea how to kiss.
Yes. And Rod was like, no.
A young woman in her 20s, and she looks like Isla Fisher.
Yeah, you look like Isla Fisher.
You, at the very least, probably had plenty of opportunities to learn.
Absolutely. So then they kissed like normal after Rod is like, oh, your mouth was all open. It was like, ah. So then Rod kisses her, and then they have this nice moment. And then Parnell, he's like doing the announcing of all this. And he announces like, oh, hey, they kiss. And like, I'm not saying that kiss was hot, but if the boner police was here, I demand a lawyer.
What an odd line.
It's so odd. There's so many odd things about this movie, but I dig it. I like it.
And so then he's doing the big stunt. It's the moment of truth. He goes up the big ramps that I'm assuming Rico built. I don't think they ever actually outright say that Rico built them, but that was his job. So I'm assuming he built the ramps, and he's ready, and he's got a big ramp, and he's just going to go down to build up speed and then jump over those 15 buses.
Right. So he does that. Everybody's very tense and wondering what's going to happen. He calls on the souls of all the animal kingdom, the soul of a dolphin, the soul of an eagle, the soul of a house cat.
I like that bit. That was a cute bit.
Yeah. So and then he does the jump, and it looks like he's doing it. Like as he's jumping, they do the slow motion shot where he's like giving the audience a thumbs up, but then they cut back in the show. He's like as he's jumping midair, he's not actually on his motorcycle anymore. His motorcycle, like he's like above it, hovering above it. And as he lands on the ramp, and the motorcycle goes flying into the stage where the band is, and like he's like seriously hurt.
And yeah, he's horribly injured, and he starts he'll actually loses consciousness, and he starts having like a. They're like, oh, is he coming to some big revelation about his life and his in his dream he's he's thinking about a trivial conversation he had with Denise earlier when he was getting ready to ask her out, but then he immediately before he's about to ask her out, he discovers that she has a boyfriend, Jonathan. And so he instead asks her who would win in a fight between a grilled cheese sandwich and a taco. And
she said, "Oh no, what were you gonna say?"
She considers the question seriously, and she says, "Well, a grilled cheese sandwich, but if it's prison rules, a taco."
Right. And Rod is like, "Wow, that's pretty racist, but correct."
Yeah, and in his dream sequence, he sees a grilled cheese sandwich and a taco fighting.
Right, and the taco wins and beats. Yeah, the taco wins, beats the grilled cheese sandwich, and the grilled cheese sandwich is like bleeding out on the floor. And then Rod wakes up.
Yeah, so Denise was actually correct. She really called it. The taco grabbed a chair and like slammed it over the grilled cheese sandwich wrestling style, and we see the grilled cheese sandwich on the ground with blood coming out of what I assume is his head. His
crust.
Yeah, I don't know. This seemed like a gag almost out of Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Yeah, I was gonna say this kind of reminded me. I mean, a lot of the things in this movie reminded me of a lot of Adam Sandler movies, like Billy Madison, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So Rod wakes up. Everybody said no, you should lay down because you're seriously hurt. You definitely got some broken bones. But Rod is like, no, I wanna walk out of here like a true stuntman. So he's able to get up and walk a little bit, and then they show the board where they have the money coming in, and as it turns out, they hit their goal. They raised $5,000 for Frank's conveniently priced surgery.
50,000.
50,000. Yeah, 5,000. That's Mexico prices. But yeah, $50,000 for Frank's conveniently priced surgery.
Yeah, so he's succeeded despite him not ever being good at stunts. And not pulling off the big stunt that he wanted to pull off. He still raised all the money.
Yeah, that's something that they point out in the movie. Rod, he fails every stunt he does throughout this entire movie. He's never successful ever in any of these stunts.
Yeah, which I understand why they did that, like rule of funny and all that, but I thought it kind of worked against them a little because by halfway through the movie, I was like, okay, well, how's this stunt going to go wrong? I mean, because they were trying to do something unexpected with each one, but because by halfway through the movie, I was expecting every stunt to go wrong. I didn't find any of the stunts going wrong especially funny by that point, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. Like it's, in a way he pulled it off because he's like, he did jump over the buses, so that's a win.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't stay on the bike when he did it, but
he did do it.
Yeah.
All right, so he hit the mark, 50,000. Everybody's happy. There's big joyous applause. Ebenezer Scrooge comes out of pokes his head out of one of the buses saying, "A cooked goose for everybody." It's very silly.
And his stepdad Frank can get the surgery, and then we cut to what I guess is like a few months later, where Frank's had the surgery, he's recovered, and now Rod is gonna finally live his dream of wrestling his stepdad and defeating him and beating the crap out of him. And they're like, "No, Rod, you can't do this. His heart is even stronger than it was before."
Right, and Rod's actually grown a little bit of a mustache. It's like kind of looks like a little dirt on his face, but
yeah. See, it's kind of like you remember like those later seasons of Married with Children where Bud Bundy was trying to grow out the goatee.
Wow,
but it didn't come in very well.
Dude, that's a throwback. I did not see that coming. Wow.
Yeah. Bud Bundy was not good at growing facial hair, you guys.
He was not.
But that's the kind of mustache that Rod has in the final scene of the movie.
Even worse at rapping. Grandmaster B.
But yeah, so they wrestle, and I'd stop taking notes at this point. So why don't you take it from here, Darren?
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, it's just big knockout, drag out fight between them. At one point, Frank throws like a Chinese throwing star at him and hits him with it, and like they're like seriously breaking walls. They they start their fight out in the basement, but it gets so rough they break through the basement wall and end up in the backyard where everybody is having a cookout, everybody from the movie, and then they start fighting. Like they're like smash each other. Like I think at one point Rod smashes Frank with a brick, and then he puts his face in the grill, and then they fight so much they like burst through the fence into the driveway where Rod finally bets him and says, "Say it, say I'm a man." He's like, "You're a man." And then Rod quickly does that little Tai Chi move that he learned earlier from Denise, where he makes Frank crap his pants, and Frank is like, I can't believe this shit. And then Rod goes, "Yeah!" And it's a freeze frame. And that's it. That's the movie.
So, I was like so on this movie at best, honestly.
Okay. All right. No, let's hear it.
Like I said, I mean, like the stunt thing, it got very predictable for me after a while, and I feel like the type of surreal humor that that the Lonely Island guys like and do together, I think it works much better in short bursts. That like you know, like what you see in their songs. I mean, I love that, but it's like a whole hour and a half of that. It's a lot for me anyway. But
all right.
Yeah. So I was surprised. I kind of liked the movie at first, but by the end, I was just like, oh, okay. So it became a slog for me by the end. I didn't like this movie quite as much as I was expecting it to.
Well, let me ask you this:
yeah, go ahead.
Are you a fan? Are you a fan of like the Adam Sandler movies? Because I mean, to me, this wasn't any more or less sillier than those. Like, if I feel like if you like those movies, like if that's your type of sensibility, you would kind of like Hot Rod in the same way.
Yeah, I'm generally not a fan of Adam Sandler movies. There's a lot of them I haven't seen. Like, I've seen The Wedding Singer. I like him. I like Adam Sandler a lot as a straight actor. I liked him in Funny People. I had my problems with that movie, but I thought he was really good in Funny People. But I haven't seen too many of Adam Sandler's solo movies. I've never seen like The Water Boy. I've never seen all of Happy Gilmore.
Wow.
Or others. Wow. I mean, well, I didn't like Adam Sandler very much on SNL, so I never made a point of seeking out his movies.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So if you,
I think I must have seen like The Wedding Singer on TV, and I like a few bits of The Wedding Singer, but I have my problems with The Wedding Singer too, and we can get into that if we ever do that movie, as I'm sure we will someday.
Yeah.
I remember like sometime in the last year I watched that movie, Blended. Is that the one where the families go to Africa? Drew Barrymore was in it. Yeah.
Just Blended.
Yeah, I had that on at one point. And I probably had it on while I was doing something else, like on the computer or something. So on that level, it was an enjoyable movie. But yeah, generally, I'm not too into the Adam Sandler stuff.
Okay, yeah, because I feel like if you were somebody who likes Adam Sandler type movies, that's kind of, I mean, I think that's the audience they were going for. Because like I mean, from what I looked up, Sandberg said he was inspired by like Wet Hot American Summer. He was inspired by for his character, he wanted to be kind of like like an Adam Sandler type of character, or even like Steve Martin in The Jerk. Like he was kind of going for that vibe. So
yeah, and I can see that. I also was like early on, I was getting a real Napoleon Dynamite vibe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's like the small town America type of thing, and very eccentric type of characters, and some white trash type of characters with the mullets and stuff like that. It struck me as very Napoleon Dynamite. And Napoleon Dynamite, I never saw Napoleon Dynamite in the theaters, but Napoleon Dynamite was one of those movies that had gotten built up so much. By the time I saw it, I was just like, oh, this isn't good. because nothing.
Yeah.
Because like some of my friends had built it up so much, they were like, "Oh, it's so incredible! You're gonna love it! It's so." And then when I saw it, and I'm sure it wasn't helped by the fact that I was watching it by myself instead of like a theater full of people. I think I probably would have enjoyed it more if I saw it with an audience, and maybe I would have enjoyed this more if I saw it with an audience. But watching by myself this morning, I was just like, "Yeah."
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing Napoleon Dynamite like a bunch of times in the theater. I dug it. Like I'll admit, it has like that type of humor where either you're gonna like kind of succumb to it and just kind of ride with it, or you're not. Like it's either it'll hit you or it won't. Like I mean, it's the same way. Like people like Fred Armisen or Kyle Mooney and Beck Bennett sketches, and they just don't hit with me. Yeah. But it's definitely like a very particular taste of comedy that they go for.
I think this style of comedy, it's very hit and miss by its nature, and like sometimes that works for me. Like a Wet Hot American Summer, I freaking love that movie. And I can get into it more, my history with that movie when and if we cover that movie. But the thing I really liked about Wet Hot American Summer, as I said earlier, is it builds and it gets more and more surreal. So I think it's a really well constructed movie that way, is they really parcel it out where it gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And I thought this movie, it didn't modulate its weirdness as well, you know?
All right, fair enough. And I also liked how you said like, oh, it has like that kind of in the middle of nowhere America type of vibe. This movie.
Mm-hmm. You're shot in Vancouver, right?
Yep, filmed in Vancouver.
Yeah, and apparently they filmed it on the summer break between the it was over the summer of 2006.
Right.
So and like when they finished this movie, they Sandberg and the Lonely Island guys, they reported back to SNL literally 2 days later.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the movie came out, did not do well, opened at number 9, pretty much bombed. Sandberg actually predicted that it wouldn't do well, remarking, I'm reading right off the Wikipedia. Sandberg remarked to Entertainment Weekly, "It will get bad reviews. Comedy is traditionally not reviewed that well." In addition, he added that if future generations viewed Hot Rod with a similar reverence to films such as Billy Madison, he would consider the film to have been a success.
Yeah. And I think, I think that shows a lot of insight and perspective on his part. I think, even though I don't feel like this movie entirely worked for me, I think they were very smart to say like, oh yeah, we're making a cult comedy here, so it's not going to do well. I don't know how wide it opened. I mean, this seems like at best it would be a movie that you open small and then let the word of mouth build on it. So maybe they tried to make it a blockbuster. And Lorne Michaels had an interesting quote on the Wikipedia page. He says, "I've lived through everything from Wayne's World with Mike Myers and Dana Carvey to Tommy Boy with Chris Farley, all the things I did with Will Ferrell, even Three Amigos. Critics just don't like new comedians, and they certainly don't like them if they come from SNL or television. Later on, they revise their opinions and say that so-and-so's later films aren't as good as the first ones. I think the picture will be thought of differently in 2 years."
Fair enough. I actually, I found an article about it on Vanity Fair, the recent one, about how,
cool.
Cool beans. So yeah,
cool beans. Go for it. Lay it on me. I didn't find this article at all, so this will all be new to me.
Yeah, so it's basically it says them talking about it 10 years later about like how now it's kind of seen in a different light, how it's a bit of a cult classic, and it's it kind of does have has a successful it's looked more favorably nowadays.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's good, and that is the sort of arc that these types of movies have. I mean, I've had another friend who, my friend Ben Dale, who would rave about this movie. He was like, "Oh my God, that's so funny! It's so great!" And somehow I never got around to seeing it with him. He never showed it to me, but for me, it was just so at best. So I'm sorry. I know you love this movie, and I wish I could share your love of it, but.
Dude, it's okay. This will not affect the podcast in any way. We're still friends. I'm not taking your number out of my phone anytime soon. It's okay.
I hear a little bitterness in your voice.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
It's good. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. Okay. Do we need to go to podcasters therapy or anything?
No, I'm fine. It's good.
Okay.
It's fine. I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Okay. So this was a hit for you, swing and a miss for me. But what you gonna do?
Yeah, I think
That's how it is sometimes.
yeah, it happens, man. Opposites attract. 2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
So anyway, what are we gonna do? Do we want to read any of the tweets we got this week? We got a few tweets about Hot Rod.
Yeah, we got some tweets about it. We put the word out as we always do. So let's see what the people had to say.
Okay. Let's see. We got a question from Callie Ray at Sailor Callie. Says, question, is Hot Rod better or worse than Popstar? And this is not a question I can answer because I have not seen Popstar. Never Stop Poppin' either. I'm sure we'll be watching that at some point. But I don't know. I have no point of reference for Popstar other than like seeing the trailers or maybe an isolated scene. So, Darren, why don't you tackle that one?
Well, since I've seen both movies, I'm gonna say, for me, I'm gonna say Popstar is better. I think it's it's not as out there bizarre as Hot Rod. I think the jokes are more solid. I think the storyline is stronger. Popstar is just a better movie. I think it's I think it's fun. That one I think you'll like. Like if you don't like Popstar,
I felt like Hot Rod. It kind of treaded water a lot. It didn't feel like they had quite enough plot to fill out the whole movie. You know?
Yeah, no, there were actually like a lot of scenes that they kept in there that was totally improvised. Like that scene with the where they're ringing the bell around the pool, and they all like,
that had the meandering kind of feel of an improv scene.
Yeah, I think Popstar, there's no meandering really. I think it's a stronger, better film. I go with Popstar.
Well, I mean, and that's cool because that means they learned on the job and they learned how to make a more well-crafted film. So that's cool. I look forward to seeing Popstar. I still love The Lonely Island. So this
there you go
for me, but what you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, this was their first film. I mean, you got to cut them a little slack.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody deserves some growing pains. I mean, I wouldn't want to be judged on our first few episodes of this podcast.
Oh God, no! I don't want to be judged on a majority of them.
Yes, we're not very good.
We're learning as we go.
What you gonna do? Was there anything else out there in the Twitter sphere?
We have Ruby the Rube saying it's a shame Andy Samberg films never perform well. They're usually great, and The Lonely Island doesn't get enough credit for reviving SNL when it hit a rough period after Will Ferrell left. And I think they get a good amount of props. I mean, everybody remembers those digital shorts as being pretty key in helping SNL kind of revive itself and reinvent itself.
I think they get a decent amount of credit, but maybe they could get a little more. I mean, I don't know.
I still remember
rated, but
they're definitely rated.
Yeah, I mean, I love that they still make a point of working together and doing stuff together, and it's always fun when you see like Yorma or Akiva pop up on like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, from what I read, they've known each other since high school. One of those things where they're friends for life.
Yeah, and that's nice. And it's always nice when people can maintain friendships, especially through the insanity of Hollywood and movie making and television making and all that.
Hear, hear.
Yeah. So
right.
Thumbs up to The Lonely Island.
Yes, and so that's our podcast. That's Hot Rod.
And so next week, since as far as we know, SNL's not coming back with another SNL at Home, we talked about, well, what are we going to do? We gotta pick out movies a little sooner than we anticipated. So we figured out another one to do, and this is another one that is on Netflix. This was done for Netflix, and it has a very interesting SNL connection. This is the 2018 movie from David Wayne, who coincidentally directed Wet Hot American Summer.
Whoa!
The film is A Futile and Stupid Gesture.
Yes, the movie about Douglas Kenny.
Yeah. And Doug Kenny, if you don't know, Doug Kenny, definitely underrated comic presence, I would say. He was one of the big people behind the National Lampoon. And he was one of the founders of National Lampoon. And he co-wrote Animal House, and he co-wrote Caddyshack. And he casts a long, long shadow on comedy. If you've seen Animal House, he has a small part in Animal House as Stork.
Right.
And he has the one line of, "What the hell are we supposed to do, you moron?" So
Zingaroo.
I've been waiting to see this movie for years and years and years. There was like word about it for a few years before it came out, and I was very happy when it finally came out. And I will spoiler alert, it more than fulfilled my expectations. I really loved this movie.
All right, so yeah, we're definitely going to get into it. It Douglas Kenny in it, played by Will Forte. Domhnall Gleeson plays Henry Beard. You probably know Domhnall, I think you pronounce it, but
yeah,
you probably know him best as General Hux from the Star Wars movies, and what else? Ex Machina. He was in that too.
Yeah, and it's a lot of today's comedy stars playing the comedy stars of the 70s. We got John Daly as Bill Murray. We've got Rick Glassman as Harold Ramis, Seth Green as Christopher Guest, Max Greenfield as Chris Miller, another one of the Animal House co-writers. Ed Helms as Tom Snyder, Thomas Lennon from The State and Reno 911 as Michael O'Donoghue.
Yeah, some of these castings are pretty perfect.
And this was so. Speaking of perfect castings, Joel McHale as Chevy Chase.
I mean, that is spot on.
That is incredible, and so I'm really looking forward to getting into this. And there's a lot to unpack, and we'll find out about Doug Kenny's sometimes surprising connections with Saturday Night Live. But we'll get into that next week.
Absolutely. And that's our podcast. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Darren Credible, DARIN Credible.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Trumbull Comic, TRUMBULL, and the word comic. And you can follow Joe's Twitter account at SNL Nerds Show.
Right. And please, you can listen to us on all platforms, and check us out at Non-Productive.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, give us some money, help us keep the lights on, and all that jazz.
And also, please give us a rate and review on the podcast subscription service of your choice. We always love reading those. We make a point of reading every one on the air, and that really does help us boost the profile of the podcast. So if you enjoy this podcast, please tell a friend about it, rate and review us, subscribe. We love all of that.
Absolutely. And I guess that's the episode, man. I guess that's all we got. And stay safe throughout these crazy times and all that jazz.
Stay safe. Wear your mask and glove. Stay home as much as you possibly can. Listen to more podcasts.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands, you filthy animals. We'll see you next week with A Futile and Stupid Gesture. But until then, nerds out.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.